Well, hi everyone, this is Don Smith. Welcome to the December tip of the month and happy holidays for all of you. Christmas is come and gone rather quickly, and New Year's is right around the corner. And we'll finally have 2020 in our rearview mirror. And I think for most of us, it can't come too soon. Although I will say, my wife and I were talking the other day, and we have quite a few things to be thankful for this year. But we, like the rest of you, sure want to get this virus out of here so we can all resume with our normal lives. So today's tip actually is something that came to mind by an email from a former client and friend, Rhonda Kennedy. And back in late November, Gary Hart had contacted a number of photographers and said he was going to be up in Yosemite and was going to shoot this beautiful moonrise that was going to be right along Half Dome. And if you know Gary, you know he's great at predicting where the moon's going to come, especially in Yosemite. He knows it like the back of his hand. So up we went, and we got into our little special spot that was away from all the hordes of people, because it actually, I think, fell on the Saturday night of Thanksgiving weekend. So the park was quite busy. So Rhonda happened to be there, and she saw the finished version of this picture come out from me. I'm currently doing the countdown on my top 12 images, and I'm not so sure. I guess this one made the countdown. I can't really remember, but somewhere along the line, she saw it on one of my social media posts and asked me that she was struggling with trying to get the blues to look in the sky to look the way her eyes saw it, as well as the nice warm light that was bathing Half Dome. And this is just strictly the raw file right out of the camera. It looks kind of blonde, lifeless for those of you that shoot raw all the time, which I know is most of you. You're pretty savvy on what a raw file looks like. You can see I was a little underexposed. I'm going to claim that I was distracted by running a second camera of video, which I was doing on this moment. So I was kind of manning two cameras. But this isn't anything that we can't spruce up here. And I'm currently in Lightroom. What I plan to do is show you three different ways that I would think about going about trying to get these blues to look the way I remember seeing it, and as well as the light on Half Dome. And hopefully these tips will help you. It's kind of a progression of things that I think about when I'm faced with a situation like this. So first things first, we always got to get this white point set, and I'm going to pull that over till I see white and back it off until the white goes away. And then we got to set our black point. This is kind of standard for any picture I do. We find the black, which is down in those shadows, but we do want to leave a little bit of it in there because that's D-max. And when you go out to print, we need to have something that's just solid black in that picture, okay? So now you can see the histogram's been stretched out, and I want to come down here now and take a look at what this camera captured this in. This was my Sony A7R IV. When I'm shooting in raw mode, I'm always in auto white because these cameras nowadays are so darn good. And you can see it recorded it at 5,250K. Sunny day is 5,500K. But this, this was getting into the last half hour, maybe even the last 25 minutes prior to recorded sunset time. And you can see the shadow was already coming well up the face of Half Dome here. So when Rhonda contacted me, a couple of things that came to mind is I told her, well, just check with your temperature slider. But I could see the issue she was going to run into. If she wanted to cool this blue down to make it look more like what our eyes saw, which was probably more in there, it's a global effect, right? So it takes the warm light that was bathing Half Dome, and it takes that down along with it, okay? So I'm going to reset it. Conversely, if you wanted to warm up Half Dome a little bit, you're warming up those blues. So really what this is going to call for is to work independently with the colors and or get into some masking. And that's what I want to show you. So the next step I told Rhonda to do, I just went back and reset this here, is I told her to come down into the hue saturation box. And there's a little targeted adjustment tool that's right here. And when we click on it, I'm going to click into the blues and I'm going to push up. And that's going to richen up those blues. You can see actually it takes the guesswork out of what color is in there. And this is showing that it's some aqua and some blue. And now I'm going to drop it into a warm part of Half Dome. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to push up. And that's just pretty much finding orange. Okay, so, you know, that's one way of doing it. It's not the best. I still don't think Half Dome looks quite the way I remember seeing it. So I'm going to just click on these to reset all of these. I don't want to reset the whole thing because I already put in a lens correction and I got a couple of dust bunnies out of there. Let's go ahead and open this now into Photoshop and see what else we can do. Okay, so now I could think about doing it the same way in Photoshop. It does have layers down here. If you look to your layers palette and then you come down here to the little ball, let me get this reset, sorry. And you came to hue saturation. You know, we could do the same thing with the targeted adjustment tool. We could try to take those blues and richen them up, but it's not really quite getting it the way I want it. And then conversely, do the same thing. This is basically just what we did over in Lightroom. So that's really not the solution for this picture. So there's two other ways to go about this. And I'm going to show you the first way because we're already in Photoshop. And what it's going to involve is isolating the blue of the sky and getting that color to where we think it's correct. And then isolating all of Half Dome and the surrounding area over here and work on that. And the way we're going to do it in Photoshop is we're going to come up to Select and we're going to come down here to Color Range. Okay? Now you can see I've already had, I was already clicking around in the sky here. I'm going to click a little bit more just to make sure it's taking in all of the sky. There we go. And in masking, this is going to build a mask. If you're new to masking, anything that's white is going to get the effect. Anything that's black is not. Anything that's gray or in between will get a portion thereof. So this is pretty simple. I just clicked the first little eyedropper in, and then I clicked the middle one that has the plus till I cleaned it all up. And I'm going to click OK. And that's selected now. You can see the selection, and it actually got a little bit of the moon, but for this purpose, that really is not a big issue. I can go back and take that out. Now we have to add a layer to do something with it. So my first thought was, well, let's come right back into hue saturation and we'll try doing that again and seeing if we can richen it up a little, which we can, you know, and that's not bad. And but it's still not quite the blue to my eye that I remember seeing it. So I'm going to come back down below the layers palette and I'm going to click again. And this time I'm going to add a color balance. All right. By default, anytime you add an adjustment layer, it's going to just add a solid white mask, okay? The way we get this mask up to here, I don't have to go back in and reselect everything. I simply hold the Option key, click on the mask, and I push up, and I have the same mask now applied to color balance. I'm going to click on that ball to get the color balance up. So I want to work on my blues, right? So I'm going to come down here to the yellow-blue slider, and we're going to push towards blue, and now we're getting into more of the area blue that I think it looked to my eye a little more like that. I'm actually going to come down here and turn the hue saturation layer off. And I'm not seeing a whole lot of difference with it on or with it off. So we'll just go ahead and leave it on. Okay, so we solved the first issue. We've gotten our sky to look the way we want it. Now we got to work on halftone, right? So we're going to go right back up to the select tool. We're going to come right back down to color range, and we're going to take that first eyedropper and we're just going to drop it into halftone. And now when I click, you're going to see that most of halftone, I'm going to add a little bit more here, is selected. Now I've got quite a bit, if not all of it, selected, and that's what I want. So now I'm going to click OK, and the marching ants come along here, and we remember we always, if we make a selection, we have to add an adjustment tool. So I think this time what I'm going to do is we'll just follow the same procedure, go to hue saturation. And now you see the marching ants go away. I want to make it clear that doesn't mean that the selection's not selected. It's just when you add an adjustment layer, Photoshop just sort of takes that marching ants away from your eyes, so it's easier to see what the adjustment is that you're doing without those marching ants messing you up. Hope that makes sense. Okay, I'm going to drop the eyedropper right down into this area of halftone, and I'm going to pull over, and I don't know, that's not really what I'm looking for. So let's find another area of halftone. Let's come over into here, and it's saying that's into the yellows. Okay, so that's not too much of what I want. So let's actually take the hue saturation. Well, I'll just reset this here. And I'm just going to reset that down to 0. And what we'll do is just go right back here and add a color balance adjustment. Remember, Option, click on the mask, push up. That attaches the mask. Click on the ball to bring the tool up. And I'm dealing with the reds. So I'm going to come into the reds a little bit. I'm not really liking that effect too much. So I'm going to trash color balance. That's not the way I want to go. I can think of one other way to do it using an adjustment layer, and that is to go grab a curves tool. And this time I'm going to do the same thing, Option click, and up it goes. Click on the little ball to bring up the curves tool. And whoops, I'm clicking on the eyeball, that little ball. And if you, up here in the curves tool, you'll see it's RGB by default. I want to come down just into the red channel this time. And I'm just going to push up a little bit. And that's warming it a tad. So you can see this is a tough image to really kind of nail. And we're doing it all through masking. So I could probably go in and subtract some of the blue. Let's try that. No, that's not going to help, so I'm going to take that out of there. So we're going to have to leave it at red. I really think the hue saturation's where we're going to get our best shot at this, you guys. Let me hit the targeted adjustment tool one more time. And yeah, so what do we do? Okay, well, this was where we were up until a few years ago, when a terrific product by the name of Luminar came out. And I know a lot of you have seen a lot of my videos that I've done with Luminar, and they now have just released the new Luminar AI version. And you can go to my website on the homepage under discounts and affiliate, and I'm going to put the code up here. I am not so sure that with Luminar AI, if you're going to get the 10% off. I actually went through and just purchased it on my own the other day, and I couldn't find a spot to put a code in. And with it being the holidays, it's really hard to get a hold of anybody back there. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to put what I call a buffer layer on top of these, and then we're just going to turn them. Well, let's just do this. Let's come back, and we're going to turn all 4 of these layers off. Okay, I'll do this a simpler way. I'm going to highlight the background layer, and I'm going to hit Command J, and that's just going to highlight that. So none of these are going to get affected. We're right back to where we were when we came out of Lightroom. I'm going to come on into my filters and open up Luminar AI. I will be doing some videos on Luminar AI once I get a chance to really work with it. Initial response, they haven't really added a whole lot to it for us landscape people, sadly. I think the biggest changes that I'm seeing is it is a brand new engine underneath, so it's faster, more efficient. The AI is supposedly better, but a lot of the changes came in on the portrait side as, you know, instead of with the landscape side. But I will play with it more, and you know, I'll do a video in the future. So it's a little bit different of a layout if you're used to Luminar 4. Up here I'm in templates mode by default. I'm going to click over to edit, and then here's our modules. And what I want to do, this was a carryover from Luminar 4, but they moved it into the Pro model, which it was in Luminar 4, but now it's under the heading of color harmony, and that is split color warmth. And this is going to, I think, give us the best shot at getting this picture to look the way it looked to my eye, because you have basically just two sliders, and the first slider is just dealing with warm colors. And look at that. Look at how nice and rich when I start to tug up on Half Dome, that it's going in and finding all the warm colors, and through the magic of AI, don't ask me how they're doing this, it comes up a lot more pleasing and a lot more natural to how my eyes saw it out there on the evening we were shooting this with the beautiful sunset light bathing Half Dome. So conversely, now I want to get these blue colors in the sky looking the way we saw it. So I'm going to tug down on the blues, and look at how simple that was. Okay, so let's turn that off and turn it back on. And I think you can really see how simple that was in just two tugs of a slider. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to put this out, and we're going to compare it to what we did in Photoshop. So we'll let it render out. Okay, so now we're back into Photoshop with the Luminar rendered version, and we're going to compare it to what we had just by doing these kind of cumbersome adjustment masks. So let me turn this one off, and we're going to turn the masks back on, and that was the look we got out of it by trying to adjust it in Photoshop. Let me turn these back off. And this was the look we got when we adjusted in Luminar. And I think you can see, hands down, Luminar is the star of the show here. And that's how simple it really is, you guys. And if you do it on a separate layer, when you work with either Luminar or the new Luminar AI, Luminar 4 or Luminar A5, I always recommend doing it on a separate layer. Because then you can go in and have the beauty of adding a mask. And when you do that, like if it looks like a little bit of warmth came into the moon that maybe I don't want, so I could change to the brush mode and make sure my opacity was up to 100%. And I don't even know if we'll see much of a change. Yeah, we're seeing actually quite a change by taking that out of there. And the beauty is now, because you're on a layer, you have the opacity. I can change it up and down however I want it. So those are the ways that I would think about going about fixing, or not fixing, but color balancing this image to bring it out of its raw state and get it to the state that I remember seeing it. And I know that's subjective, and it's subjective to all of us, but I think if you asked all the photographers out there on this evening that were shooting this, this is really kind of the light that all of us saw out there. So kind of a long-winded answer, Rhonda. I hope this really helped you out. If you guys haven't gotten Luminar, at least Luminar 4, I honestly would probably recommend you just go with Luminar AI at this point. It's about another $30 some more, I believe. You know, it's hard to say because they have discount deals on all of them. My code will get you 10% off a Luminar 4. Luminar AI, I just think that's where everything's going. Stay with the latest software. So I hope that helped you out. I hope you guys have a wonderful New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, and stay safe until we can get these vaccines going. If you're an anti-vaxxer, then I guess it doesn't matter to you, but I'm going to be the first in line when they call my number. And until next month, everybody, you take care.